Hello, and thank you for joining the Champion Within podcast, your premier go-to spot for unlocking your winning mindset. Whether you're an athlete looking to elevate your game to the next level, a coach leading the charge, an enthusiastic parent cheering from the sidelines, or an educator molding young minds, the Champion Within podcast episodes are packed with value, sharing the tools and strategies to unlock your potential and rise to new heights. Hosted by mentor, coach, and mindset leader Kate McCauley. Let's sit back and enjoy today's episode while discovering your champion within. And now, here's Kate.
Hey champions, thank you for joining us on the Champion Within. I have a return guest today, and you know I'm pretty picky with who I allow to come on to the podcast. So if we have a return guest, that means that you loved them and I loved chatting with them. Today we have Lauren Embree coming back to talk with us. And as she says, we're going to talk about her love language, nutrition. We're going to hear about how she got into the world of functional nutrition, and you are going to have some tips that you are going to be able to steal. I really think that it would be a good idea to focus on females, the female athlete, maybe their mom who's taking them to and from practice, sitting in the stands. But of course, all of the dads in the audience and my dad coaches, I love you too. So you're going to be able to steal some of this as well. But we don't have all day. We're going to try to focus on those things and learn a little bit more about what you can steal. Lauren, thank you for coming back to chat with us. How are you?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I love jumping on your podcast. I love what you're about. I love the information that you put out there for everybody to learn. I'm super excited to talk about one of my other passions aside from tennis, which is holistic nutrition and food and lifestyle. So really excited to be here.
Thank you. We talked about your tennis journey. We talked a little bit about how you got to Austin and started your journey in helping people with their nutrition journey. We didn't even dive deep into how you started learning about nutrition and why you wanted to help people. Could you just share quickly the story of why you went in that direction?
Yeah, it's kind of a unique one, honestly. So as I was playing tennis, I'm 34 now, but when I was 22, I was just transitioning from college to pro. I was trying to do everything I could in my control to just kind of have that upper edge going out on tour and being young and new and all of these things. And my diet was not great in college, and not great as it was like horrendous, but it wasn't perfect. I had a lot of digestive problems. I was getting hurt a little bit, and I kind of chalked that up to being overtrained and just the constant pounding on my body from being on court. And then I started to have some stomach problems, some pain, some brain fog, just a lot of like weird things. And as an athlete, I was like, I'm healthy. I'm perfectly fit. I'm in my prime, blah, 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 whatever story I told myself. Turns out I got kind of redirected to a lot of different doctors trying to diagnose me with a lot of things that I just knew deep down I didn't really have. They wanted to put me on all these medications, and I just was not having it. So I eventually started to do my own research. I started to see a functional medicine doctor actually in Beverly Hills, because I was living in Santa Monica at the time. And he really opened up my entire world to holistic health and functional medicine, which is really just a fancy word of saying the power of the foods and the we put inside of our body and the lifestyles that we choose to live. A lot of that stuff can throw us off internally. No matter how healthy I looked on the external side, I was not internally healthy. So he did a lot of muscle testing. He did a lot of gut testing, stool testing, blood testing, all of these things, and basically came back with a bunch of different autoimmune diseases that I had at 22. And that made sense to me. And so he didn't put me on any medication. He kind of just gave me a really crazy diet routine, which was shocking to me because I was traveling the world. And he basically said, you have to go for 3 or 4 months, gluten, dairy, egg free. And that obviously was a challenge because I was, in different countries over the world, but I did it. And within 3 months, I was significantly better. My back pain was down. My autoimmune was manageable. It was kind of like in remission. It was this whole protocol. So I kind of took it from there and just went back to school and did the whole thing. And that was 11 years ago. So that's kind of what kickstarted it. There's a lot of other things in between, but it was really just that doctor that kind of got me going into treating my body better with the foods that I choose to put in it every single day.
Gotcha. I do want to say before I even jump into some questions that I know nutrition can be different for each individual. I mean, really, this is health in general. If we're talking about mindset, if we're talking about nutrition, exercise, there are things that you could say this works for people in general or women in general, but we always have to remember that each of you are unique. Those people who are listening right now, this is incredibly important. And I think I'm not a nutrition specialist, but I think that's why I have Lauren here. But I think that it's important to, especially for my female athletes listening and their moms, that sometimes females can do things that are harmful. We're not fueling properly. We undereat. We, go on fad diets because we really want to lose weight and we don't know exactly how to do it. We can have a loss of our period, especially for athletes. I think that it is so important for everyone to realize, one, that you are unique. Two, you need to be listening to an expert like Lauren and not looking at TikTok. I love TikTok for so many cool life hacks, but it's easy to get into that scroll and think, oh, well, this chick did this and I play high school basketball or I'm a track runner, so I should do that. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I mean, maybe some of them are right, but I just want to put that out there because I think that it can be dangerous in some ways if people aren't aware of it. What do you think about that kind of stuff?
100%. And the first thing you said is nutrition is a very individualized approach. I mean, it's not a one size fits all by any means. I think sometimes we get caught in the trap, especially females, being an athlete, of underdosing ourselves with nutrients. Or the other side of it is like feeling like we can eat whatever we want because we're exercising so much. And both are not true. Right. You just won't get as far and you won't feel as optimal and you won't perform your best and you won't be as strong. And even if you're not an athlete, even if you're male, like this goes for everybody. I think speaking from experience and speaking as a female athlete, it can be very confusing. So the biggest thing that I like to tell people and athletes and young girls going through this whole process of trying to navigate how they feel is listening to your body. It sounds so cliche, but if you follow somebody on TikTok or Instagram and they're doing one thing and then you try and do that and you feel awful, but you're like, I'm eating healthy. It's not healthy for you. And that's kind of such a powerful thing. As soon as I started like listening to how I felt when I fed my body certain foods, even if it wasn't, on brand with this 3 million follower, fitness influencer. Well, she's not in my body. She's not trying to be a professional tennis player. And we all have different goals. So that's one thing that can be actually so easing to the mind, and you can keep it pretty simple, but it's really just try not to calorie count. Calories are by no means created equal. You will not get very far. You'll just be tired and, probably get hurt because we really have to focus on our macronutrients, which is protein, fats, and carbs.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
I actually have a list of things that we're going to try to weave into. There's so many things. Like I said, we could be hours and hours. Really, if you wanted to dive deep, that's when you should reach out to Lauren. This is a good time right now. Just tell them a little bit about what your wellness company is all about. Then we're going to get into that protein, carbohydrates.
Yeah.
So many things there.
Yeah. All of the things. But my company is Embree Wellness, and it's really just a holistic nutrition business company. I consult with athletes, just your working individual, busy moms. I do family nutrition. I do a lot of wellness talks and speaking engagements around the country. So if you have a corporate business or you belong to a club or an academy of any sports, like bring me in to talk really any topic that they want. I have a whole list of things, but it really helps provide education around nutrition and simple, easy ways to bring that home with you into your lifestyle. But it's a consulting business and I like to provide meal plans and I'm their accountability partner. It's like a fun process as opposed to, feeling really draining and something that you don't look forward to. I try and make it fun and it helps people just kind of have that whole lifestyle approach as opposed to like, I'm going to crash diet for 4 weeks. It's like, you can take it for the rest.
So many things I love about that, Lauren. One, that you're an expert and they need to reach out to you because we can't do everything on this podcast. So we're going to give them some cool things to steal today. But one, the accountability piece is huge with mindset. When I set goals with people, whether it's what they're going to eat, exercise, just the thoughts that are floating through their brain, if they don't have someone keeping them accountable for their nutrition and all areas of life, you can do it for a little while, but the likelihood of you sticking with it is pretty rare.
Yeah.
You need someone to keep you accountable and really change your brain, the way that you see food, the way that you are doing things, because it is really easy to slip back into those old habits. And I love that you said lifestyle, because when I was going through my degree with kinesiology to become a teacher, I had a couple nutrition classes. It was almost just sprinkled in some different things so we could teach health and phys ed. But the lifestyle piece is so important. And I think that there's a place for the different types of diets. I will admit, I sometimes have done carb cycling and it has worked for me, but it's not something that I would ever do as a lifestyle, or, I'm not even sure if it was really healthy when I was doing it. So I think that lifestyle, as I've gotten older and wiser, is something that we really need to lean into, and not when I'm older and wiser, but for our young female athletes. When I speak with women, my mom group friends, people I work with, and I talk with them, and when I talk with my daughter, who's a junior in high school, I've really done this her whole life. It's important for me to say that we are strong and healthy, not skinny. That's just who I am, but that's not who every mom is. And I get that. Some people want to look a certain way. What would you recommend let's start with that high school athlete, and then we can, work over the mom.
Yeah, I love this topic. And I'm right there with you. I think a good framework around that is focus on building muscle as opposed to losing weight. As we age, that declines. Our muscle declines naturally, male and female. So if we're not doing the things that keep muscle on our body, our bones are going to get weak. We're going to get hurt. We're going to be frail. All of these things, it's just going to catch up to us. So focusing on building muscle. And when you have more muscle, actually, you burn more calories at rest. You are leaner, right? You're stronger. So, and then if you can do that by lifting weights, eating enough protein. And those are the two things that if you can just focus on eating protein in every meal, you will feel better. It has nothing to do with how you look from a cognitive standpoint, from an energy standpoint, from a focus standpoint, from being able to train as long as you want and not getting tired. You'll just feel better. So those are the two things: is focus on building muscle. You can only do that by eating enough protein and lifting some weights. You will
how do they focus on that protein? If because I think you and I may know, and you know way more than me, but just a little bit of my background in kinesiology, I kind of know where to look a little bit. But if you're that high school athlete, or you're the mom trying to help your high school athlete, or maybe you're the high school coach and you have no clue and you're listening, what does that look like for that high school athlete? Should they meal plan, and how many grams of protein would you recommend?
Yeah. So all really good questions. And protein, really the goal. So this is just baseline for athletes, for normal people that, aren't working out twice a day or whatever for their sport. It really should be a gram per pound of your ideal body weight. So example, I'll use myself. If I am 5'7", 145 pounds. Now, if I put, my sister, I don't have a sister, but let's just say I did, who is 5'6", 20 pounds or 150 pounds, we might look very different, but because I have more muscle than she does, right? So the number does not really mean much is kind of what I'm saying, because muscle weighs more than fat. So 145 might be like, oh, that's a lot. But when you see me, it's like, oh, wait, she's pretty strong. She's got some good muscle mass on her. I don't necessarily look 145. It can look like two completely different things. Sure. But really focus on a gram per pound of your ideal body weight in a day. And if that seems like a lot, right? Like, we're not trying to get there tomorrow. Our metabolism is very much a muscle. We need to train it in order to get to this protein number, but really try and get 30, 30, 30. So 30 for breakfast, 30 grams for lunch, and 30 grams for dinner. And if you can do that, you're probably closer to your goal. You're close to 100 grams of protein. And that's like a really good way to look at how to make your plate every single day. And then knowing what protein comes in. It's in the form of meat, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, eggs, fish, things like that. A protein, like a clean protein powder, maybe a clean protein bar. There's ways to do it. Tofu, edamame, if you don't eat meat. There's ways to do it, but those are your main protein sources. So knowing what it comes in, the breakdown, but really trying to have it in every single meal so you feel better than if you didn't have it.
I love so much about that. The piece where you said what feels good in your body. So important. Pay attention to that. And what a great way to say 30, 30, 30 to get started. And training. That is something I just love saying. Train your brain. For an athlete, they can understand this. If an athlete is trying to do this, or a mom of an athlete, or just a person in general, when you're trying to train, paying attention to, okay, pound, for my ideal body weight. That is just a great tip for someone, and to
And
ease into it, because we are probably not getting that. I have no clue.
no,
So what
no.
does the average person get? Do you know?
Oh gosh. Well, according to the Standard American Diet, which is the SAD, which it is very sad, is getting nowhere close to even 0.8 grams per pound of your body weight, right?
Okay.
So we're like very, very low from a protein standpoint because of the convenience factor of foods. They're not protein dense. There's empty calorie dense. It's simple carbohydrates, refined carbohydrates. I will say from the exercise piece, and you kind of brought this up, if you're just doing, and this, I was a product of this, doing so much exercise and working out so much and overtraining and physically exerting yourself and then not recovering from a nutrition and protein standpoint, you will get hurt. You will feel run down. You will pull a muscle. Like you won't get as far. So it's really important pre and post workout or training session to make sure you're hitting your nutrition in this time frame, because meal timing is really important. And if you're not doing that, then that's where the trouble starts to happen. So it's almost more important than the actual on-court or on-field training is what you're doing off-court.
So actually planning what you're eating before, what you're eating after, that leads into a perfect segment, which is a debate of the carbs. And I'm going to tell you right now, I love bread and things like that. French,
Same.
and my daughter, who's a track runner, they often have a pasta dinner, different things the night before. And there's the carb loading. And when I was an athlete, high school and college, I, really struggle with this, because sometimes I'm wondering about, and I told you about the carb cycling. Let's go into this debate of carbs. I know that they're important for energy and whatnot. What's your take on that and advice for people?
Yeah. And this is, again, sticky conversation, sometimes confusing, lots of opinions. And again, this is just my opinion, but I do think even back in the day, I was very much pushed carbs, energy. There's two types of carbs. There's a simple carb and there's a complex carb. The simple is really anything that tastes good when you chew it. So think about like any white food, that's a simple carb. Any sugar, that digests as simple carbs. Quickly through your body, not going to fill you up, not a lot of nutrients in a simple carbohydrate. If we can fuel more with complex carbohydrates, like a fruit, vegetable, some whole grains, some brown rice pasta, some lentils, beans, things like that, now we're getting the energy for our brain. Now we're getting the glucose reservoirs to be able to burn that off the next day through foods like that. The simple carbs we can have in our diet. I'm a huge believer that nothing's bad for us. It's just the amount that we have some of these foods. And in America, we're eating way too many simple, refined carbohydrates, processed foods. And that's what is making us sick. And that's what's making us tired. By no means do we have to load those foods in order to perform well the next day in our sport. It's really the combination of protein, fats, and some complex carbs. Our body has way more energy stored up than we think. And sometimes we don't need all of the refined sugar and carbs that we think we do.
Where did this come from? Who came up with this? Do we know?
It's the food pyramid is so backwards. It's getting a little bit better. It's the convenience factor. It's cheaper obviously to eat this way. There's ways to do it even on a budget, and even trying to, save some money and stuff. There's still ways to eat cleaner and to be less sick. And that comes from just the foods that we choose to eat. Doesn't have to be perfect by any means, but just trying to implement some of these things, I think you can see a world of difference.
Let's be real for a minute. Stress is something we all deal with, right? Before work, during, after work, it's always there. But here's the thing. Not every stress-busting tool works for everyone. I always say if we were all the same, life would be boring. That's why I put together the Stress Buster Guide. It has a few different options. Some you'll love, some maybe not so much. And that's okay. I want you to find what clicks for you. It's totally free. Honestly, it's my most downloaded resource for a reason. After the show, I want you to go to the show notes, click the link, and grab it so you can start feeling more in control. No matter when stress hits you, there is a tool for you to calm your nervous system. You deserve to make that happen for yourself. I'm rooting for you always. Now let's get back to the podcast chat. I know for myself, and we'll kind of move a little bit into maybe the moms who are driving people to practice, sitting in well, sometimes we are in the snack stand working, but sitting in the bleachers. I try to eat healthy and I try mind, body, and spirit. It's especially as I get older. And really, I'm just going to say it. It pisses me off that people are like, well, perimenopause, menopause, like good luck with that for 7 to 10 years. We don't really know. I'm like, what the heck? Are you kidding me? Just good luck with that. It's like you're in this like Google world. Even when I ask my doctor sometimes, who is a woman and I love her, but I'm like, what? But when I'm eating healthy, if I'm trying to eat clean and focus on protein and different things, and then this actually happened to me. We went to Key West for our 40th birthday. My husband and I, we went with a group of friends. And while we were there, first day we're there, we went to a place that was well known, had a crab cake with a bun, fries, and I had it. I kid you not, my feet like got swollen. I had to go back to our hotel and I was like trying to elevate my feet in the pool. I swear it was because I was eating healthy and then I went to eat something that really wasn't that great. And it was almost like I was too healthy. And then ate something and my body was like, what the hell are you doing? You know? Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that can happen. Your body almost rejects this bad food that's coming through. So there's so many things I just threw out there. But when we're thinking about the moms in this group, and they of course can be all different ages when you have, you know, your young athletes, whether they're youth sport through high school and college. What do you start to say to the women who, when our bodies start to change, do you still recommend that 30-30-30 like the high school athlete? And is there anything else nutritionally that you would say, all right, ladies, lean in, turn the volume up?
Yeah, I mean, this is such a huge topic of conversation and it's such a much needed discussion. But even more so, like as we age, that protein number actually has to go up because our muscles and is going on the decline. So we have to protect that. So really it should be even more the older we get from a protein number. So 30-30-30 is obviously a great place to start, but if you can also find a snack, maybe that's not a carbohydrate, right? And if you're post menopause, it's limiting alcohol, which can be a whole nother podcast. But it's alcohol because that's sugar, right? And sugar really is pretty toxic to our body, which is why when you had that in the Keys,
we were drinking too. So
like it was just a flare up. Like it's your immune system just attacking itself from the inside out. And then you're having these symptomatic things that happen on the outside. So you have to internally, and that's holistic medicine, is find the root cause of disease from the inside out. So finding the trigger deep down. So going through menopause, post-menopause, not saying that diet will 100% heal all the symptoms, but it will help. I will say another thing too is sleeping. You cannot jeopardize sleep. You cannot try and be sedentary or do these crazy HIIT workouts 5 or 6 days a week. That's going to just spike your cortisol levels. You need a blend of weight training and some zone 2 training combined with, maybe 2 days of HIIT training. But
tell them what zone 2 training is.
Zone 2 training is not spiking your heart rate too high. So it's basically being able to go for, a slow jog or a fast walk with a friend and still have a conversation, like that intensity. But doing that a couple days a week for about 40 minutes, you'll be in this like fat burning zone, which will help you burn fat as opposed to burning carbohydrates and burning muscle. But then you also need this HIIT training to, increase your heart rate. That's really good for our heart health and our lungs and our cardiovascular system, and also helps us burn more calories out at rest because it helps our metabolism kind of fire. So the combination.
I know what HIIT is and I love it, but tell them what HIIT stands for. I'm about to say.
Yeah, HIIT is high intensity interval training. So don't overdo this, but don't not do it. It is so good for us. It is so good for our metabolism, especially as we get into this stage of life. It's necessary. It's just, we need to find a good blend that works best for that person. And again, it's not going to be the same for everybody.
Right.
You have to move and you have to lift weights and you have to eat protein to stand a chance through all this stuff.
I think so many women are unsure of what to do. And when I hear you saying those things, I personally love HIIT and, taking a walk. We've talked about this before. I have to get out of my house and get outside, take that walk, jog type of thing, for
Yep.
me. But ladies listening, if you are the mom going to practice, if you are maybe at a long tournament day, I'm thinking in my brain right now, because I am that mom. I've been that mom for a long time. You can walk around the
Yeah.
court. You can walk
Yep.
around the fields with your mom tribe
Yeah.
and talk about whatever you need to talk about and get that zone 2 in right there. HIIT workouts are quick.
Yeah.
You can do it in your family room. I like to get away from my kids, but they're teenagers now. I like to go to the gym. But when they were younger and we had all 3 of them in different things, it was fucking crazy town here. And I felt like I was eating fries and bad things too much. And then I was feeling this guilt of, I'm not taking care of myself, but I got to take care of them. And I got to be in the snack bar and be a good mom and do the fundraising. And when you don't take care of yourself, you're not really taking care of everyone else. So you could do a HIIT in your living room. You could look them up online. If you're listening to the podcast, send me a message. I can help you find those.
Yeah.
And the zone 2 can happen in between games.
Simultaneously.
Practice.
Yep. Exactly. You can find 30 minutes to get something in. And if you do HIIT right, it shouldn't be past 20, 25 anyways.
Right. Exactly.
So
yeah. Cool. And when you're telling people to look at the protein there, you said it does get a little bit higher. And the best way to do that, you said, would be the snacks.
Yeah. So finding protein forward snacks. And there's a bunch on my website. Feel free to reach out to either of us that I can share a list, but it's really
I'll put the links. Those who are listening, I'm going to put the links there because I know you have great resources that they can download. You also do a monthly newsletter that comes out through email that I signed up for, and you send some great stuff.
Yeah,
just monthly, right? Or do you
Yep, it's monthly. It's just free, free little hacks and tips and things that are on trend that need to be talked about. So all good resources. I try and offer as much free stuff as I can just to provide the education, but getting protein forward snacks in kids, snack bags, lunch boxes, protein bars, protein shakes, like getting a few of those good ones can be a staple to just increasing your protein without feeling like you need to eat all the time. I have a protein shake a day, and that adds another 20, 25 grams. So I can look at as well the company that I work with. Yeah, delicious. The cleanest out there. They're Austin based. And
about that just popped into my brain. So 2 things. One, I'm thinking to myself, anytime that I do something, when my kids were little, even now as teenagers, sometimes as teenagers, they do roll their eyes. So don't be listening to the podcast thinking that you're going to have kids who are not rolling their eyes. But especially when they were young, they're working out right along with me. If I'm doing stuff in my house, they're doing squats and push-ups and stuff with me. They challenge me in many ways. I have a client who her middle school son actually has been challenging her with these types of workout type things. And when they see me going out for a walk or a run or whatever, they see me going to the gym, they often will be paying attention and doing those things. The same thing with healthy eating. When you have those healthy snacks available in your house, that they see you doing it, you are a good example, especially for your daughters, your sons too, but we're talking a lot about the females today. You need to show her that you have to take care of your body. And that is not just, eating, then I'm going to run it off, that you're eating healthy consistently. I think that role model piece is important. And then the next part you were saying about the protein shakes and the supplements. I would love to hear some more information about that, because I personally have been Googling some of those things. And I know some of my friends have been talking like, what's the best one to take? You hear like my husband has certain things for like pre-workout and different things. And is there different ones for my daughter who's in high school, older, if you're not getting it in your meal? I think food first. That's my take. I don't know.
Yes. But whole foods first, for sure. Whole foods, like if you can start the day with, and here's a good tip, maybe for everybody listening, tomorrow, try and start the day with a whole food. And a whole food meaning a 1 ingredient food. So meaning egg, apple, chicken sausage, which is maybe 2 ingredients if you get a clean one, but salmon, a vegetable, that's an avocado. That's just 1 ingredient, right? And not
with breakfast, start your day with
a whole food, a 1 ingredient food. Yeah. I would even throw like some cottage cheese and Greek yogurt in there. That's one or two, right? Just like what I mean by not a whole food is like an Eggo waffle or a pancake or cereal, something out of a box or in a package. Like that's a processed food. Sorry, not to go off a tangent, but I
think that's a great tip and an easy one.
Yeah. And just think about this stuff. And I don't know how many people go a day eating only whole foods. It's really hard to do.
It is.
Yeah. And there's some exceptions, obviously protein powder and a clean protein bar. Like sometimes I'm like, whole food, but the brand. So, and to piggyback on your question, like, how do you know which protein shake is clean? And here's another helpful tip is, again, don't look at the calories on the back. I wish I had my protein powder here. I would show you, but look at the ingredients. So making sure it's less than in a protein shake, it's got to be less than like 5 or 6 max. And that goes across the board for anything. Like as soon as we get into a laundry list of ingredients, there's a lot of things that you can't pronounce, that you can't find in the grocery store, and that you don't know what they are. Like they're not in your pantry. So why would we put that in my body?
Right.
And so that's a good one. And then the second one is look at the added sugar in things. Like I said earlier, sugar is pretty toxic to our body in excess. We can afford a little sugar, obviously, but having a lot in our diet, I think the average person consumes like, it was a crazy, crazy number, like 50 to 70 grams of added sugar a day.
Right.
Which it should be less than 20.
Sugar is added to everything. It's insane. I did a sugar detox once and it was crazy how many things I was like, I can't eat this because sugar's in it.
So added sugar is a big one. So protein bars, and a lot of them are candy bars because of these problems. Protein bars and protein shakes, look at ingredients, look at added sugar, and then make sure, the last thing I'd say is make sure there's no carbohydrates or a very minimum amount in your protein powder. It's a protein shake. It should be 15 grams or more of protein.
Okay. So low sugar, low carb. Is there so you said 15 grams or more for the protein? For protein, is there a range you would look for the carbs or the sugar?
Yeah, probably like 8 grams or less, 10 grams or less max. Like it really should be like less than 5 probably if you get a really clean, good one. But artificial sugars are also grouped in there as sugars. So make sure there's not, more than one in there. There can't be like 3 or 4 artificial sugars in there. That's going to probably hurt your stomach.
Yeah. People need to do their research there. That's an important thing. Because I know people, say like, I can't do that. And they put it into, I guess, a smoothie or some sort of way to get the protein shake into their day. You
can get super creative with it. I put it in a smoothie every day, but you can put it in your kids' cereal milk, and you can put it in oatmeal. You can put it in Greek yogurt. Like I'll share the protein brands that I like, and they're clean, and you can mix them in whatever. And it helps get you an additional, 20 to 25 grams of protein in your meal. And that really satiates us and fills us up. So we're not, over consuming empty calorie foods because we're full.
Right. Yeah. You'll definitely have to share that with everyone because people are probably going to say like, where should I get this?
Yeah. I've got you guys.
You'll have to, and you said, do you have a link where they can do it right through you? Probably.
I do. Yeah. I have a link. It's on my website. There's a discount code, so you get a discount. It's 30 servings. They're wonderful.
Okay. Cool. I'll put all of those things. So make it easy for my listeners here, and you can just click right on that.
Totally.
And I'm telling you, when I try to look at some of these things, you get in this deep dive of Google, and it's like
rabbit hole.
It's overwhelming, and you start to say, all right, I don't know, and then.
Yeah. And then you end up with nothing. So the protein powder, you'll link it. The protein powder is called Noble Origins, NOBLE. And they have chocolate, vanilla, and the discount code is Get Wholesome, all caps.
Okay. Cool.
For 15% off. So it ends up being a pretty good deal.
Yeah. So people listening can check that out. That's cool. All right. Cool. Great tip there. When I was talking with some people, I said, I'm going to have Lauren on again because they were reaching out saying, I love that conversation. They said one of the biggest things, and this was not so much the high school athletes, because I do get to work with them in workshops. It was more their moms, really, that the gut issues and feeling bloated.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this isn't normal.
Oh, yeah. No.
And we kind of are told sometimes, well, that's just normal. And I'm like, I don't think it is. It's not normal.
It is not normal.
Yeah. So is there certain types of nutritional, I'm sure you have to make a whole plan, but is there certain types of things that you would say, one, you just answered it. It's not normal. So ladies, when we were talking, it is not normal.
Yeah.
But what do you say to someone when,
when that happens? So it's so common to feel bloated or like gassy, constipated, like whatever it is from a gut microbiome standpoint. And that is your body trying to tell you something. Like what you just fed me, I do not love, right? Because you're having this reaction. So feeling bloated after you eat, not normal. So we need to, a big thing I do is just start kind of like a 3-day food diary of kind of, if they're working with me, a 3-day food diary of kind of what they're eating. And a lot of the time, just as a simple tip for the moms and parents to help their kids out, like gluten and dairy are pretty inflammatory to our system in excess. So those would be 2 things that I would try and keep out of my diet if I was experiencing some of those symptoms. And that's a tricky one because going gluten-free doesn't mean getting gluten-free pretzels over regular pretzels. Like gluten-free food, sometimes just avoiding gluten and gluten-free things in excess is going to be helpful. So yes, maybe getting a gluten-free bread, but when it comes to like packages and chips and snacks, not gluten-free doesn't mean healthier. It's just taking away this one ingredient in gluten, but gluten and then processed dairy, like flavored yogurt or ice cream, sour cream, shredded cheese, queso. There's so many things in that dairy has that's inflammatory to us. So we need to go like almond milk or, get a raw cheese or, get the dairy free ice cream and you want a few bites, like things like that. But those are the 2 I think that can really hurt people's stomach, and it is not normal to feel bloated. So we've got to figure that out.
Yeah. I never heard anyone say about the gluten-free that it just doesn't mean go find the...
No. Yeah. And I was doing that. Like, that's why I say take a strong stance on that, because when my doc was like, Lauren, go gluten-free, I was like, oh, gluten-free this and gluten-free that, I'll feel so much better. You're still eating empty calories and they're still replacing, chemicals with the gluten. So it's back to the conversation of like whole foods as much as possible, with maybe scattered in some, little snacks and treats here and there. Like, of course, I love a good French fry and I love a good bite of a donut and things like that, but I don't use that as my meals.
Right. I call it a sometimes food,
Yeah, like 10% of your diet, 15% are these foods, and the other 80, even 70 is, the protein, the fats, the carbs, like things that provide your body nutrients.
I think it's so true. When you start to do those things, you really do feel good in your body, and you almost don't want if you do have something like that. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't taste good, but you're like, there's been times where I'm like, this is too sweet. I can't.
For sure, because you're not used to all the sugar.
Right.
So when you don't have that much sugar in your diet, sugar is addicting. Like, that's why you can't just have one cookie. They do that on purpose. So you eat the whole thing, because it also takes 20 cookies to fill you up, because there's no nutrients in cookies, where it takes you 1 avocado to keep you full because there's so much nutrients in food. So that's another good way to look at food. It's like, which one has the highest, like, finance term, but return on investment. So like, if I'm making some eggs, that takes me 5 minutes to make, but fills me up. So my ROI after eating eggs is massive. But if I, eat 3 bowls of popcorn, okay, it didn't take me much to make, but I'm not full after I eat that.
Right.
So my ROI is really low. So looking at food in that way too can be helpful when picking and choosing what to eat.
I love that. Return on investment.
Yeah. Like, what's your ROI after I eat, wild fish? Well, really high, because it's good and it doesn't take very long and has a lot of nutrients. But if I eat, Chick-fil-A, I'm not going to feel great after. ROI is pretty low. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So much goodness here. I love all of it. And what would you say is, I was asking some people and just thinking about what people say in general to me. What is the number one thing you hear from either athletes or maybe women who are at different phases in their life? What do you hear?
Oh, man, I feel like I've heard a lot. But one thing I do hear is they're calorie counting. So like, I've done this Lose It app, or I'm tracking my food and I'm at 1,500 calories. And I'm like, well, that's the problem. Our body needs way more calories than that. So the calorie counting thing is sad to me, because it doesn't have to be like that. I have a client that I just had for 6 weeks, and she's never eaten and felt this, like, eaten this much food. And she lost 12 pounds. And she's just like mind blown. And I'm like, yes, and now she's adopted this. She's not working with me because she doesn't need to. And that's the goal, is like stuff like that. But another one too, with a female athlete, is Not eating enough, same thing, like tired, hurt all the time, sore, like really sore because they're doing so much training and not replenishing their body with proper things. So they're run down all the time. So the whole not eating enough sometimes, especially in the female space. And I get it from the fear of X happening, but if we can reframe and look at food as like what it does for you, as opposed to this is good and this is bad, I think it can be helpful with the relationship.
Yeah, so true. Because I think sometimes we think, all right, well, like I'm not going to eat. Or when I was coaching, I coached actually tennis. I think I told you this before. They talked me into it. I was not a tennis player coach, but I primarily coached basketball. I had a couple athletes who definitely suffered from eating disorders and things like that. And we had to really watch and change the way they were thinking about food because they were thinking, well, I should not be eating. And we had to reteach them that food is fuel.
Totally.
And I just think that even as people get, especially as women get older, they think, well, I had a salad, am I skinny now? I'm going to just eat fruit. I'm only eating grapefruit. It's just crazy. But there's so many fad things out there, and this, idea that, you have to do that is pretty mainstream, actually.
Yeah. And I would say the other thing that you just reminded me in this whole conversation is that I hear a lot that kind of makes my skin crawl because I feel the opposite is that like meat is bad or red meat is bad. And actually, if your if your dietary preference is to eat meat and you can do that, then red meat is good for us. There's so many nutrients and, essential amino acids that are in red meat and other meats that are not in some of these other things. So if your diet allows you, your culture allows you to eat meat, like there's a lot of benefit to getting meat. It's just now the quality matters. That's the conversation, as opposed to red meat's good or bad. It's like, yes, the better quality is going to go farther for us. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying like go to eat, Burger King Whopper, that's red meat. Like that's different than buying the grass-fed meat or even the conventional meat at the store. Like there's health in that. And if you don't eat red meat, then yes, getting your protein through like tofu, edamame, fish, protein powder, like Greek yogurt, like getting creative with that stuff is important as well. But I hear that one a lot about the red meat situation. And that's not what's making us sick. It's the inflammatory foods that we're eating that's making us sick.
Right. Yeah. There's probably so many different directions.
I might have just had some enemies there. I'm not sure, but I feel strongly about that point.
Yeah, I agree too. And like you said, it's real food. And I think that there's, in my opinion, again, probably a lot of reasons, who gets funding for certain things and why they say certain things about certain foods. And this is good now. And then we have a trend here because some industries are getting funding from something, it's just again, my opinion. I'm not a researcher in that financial world of what different places are getting funding for different things to say different things and like, supermarkets and the food industry. But anyway, I agree if you look at the actual food itself. So, but I think all of this is so great. And I think that you really do have to look at yourself as an individual and to take a deeper dive. Those who are listening, this is just touching the surface of it. And we already put out there that you have the website so people can reach out to you. So is there any one thing you would love to leave our listeners with if they were just, it doesn't even have to be for females, just in general related to if they wanted to become healthier with their nutritional choices?
Yeah. And I think maybe what we touched on before of really just like tapping into your body. But another thing that really comes up, and now that my brain's just like going on nutrition, is the whole like intermittent fasting space of, not eating till a certain time. And I will say, if there's anything that you take from this whole conversation, and there's one thing you want to change tomorrow, it's what you break your fast with. And if you think about that, that's breakfast, right? That's the word, breaking your fast. So it's really important that we don't miss that meal, because if you do miss that meal, you're going to be hungry. Like hunger wins every time. So if I don't do a good job eating throughout the day, like I'm starving by dinner, and then it's like, it's not good what I'm reaching for, So start the day, do a regular 12-hour fast. Like if you're done eating at 7, eat at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. the next day. start it with this, protein, fiber, fat, combination of breakfast and just see how you feel. Like make a note and you'll feel probably full. You'll feel good, alert, won't be hungry within an hour or two. So that would be like the number one tip. If you change
I love
anything,
that you gave that.
change your breakfast.
I try to do that. And I it's something that I didn't even think to ask, but people do talk about that a lot. So would you say, even if you're not hungry, so let's say they stop eating at 7, through the night, I think is easiest if you're doing the fasting.
Yeah.
And then in the morning, some people would say, wait till you're hungry. But what I'm hearing you say is eat that. And I never heard breakfast to break the fast. I mean,
I know. Isn't that wild?
I love that. Why haven't I never heard that before?
I know. Yeah, I would say don't like force feed yourself if you're not hungry, but sometimes if you're not eating till like 1 or 2, that's a metabolic condition that we need to address. Okay. Right. So eat something. It doesn't have to be like this 40-gram of protein meal, but try and get 15 grams of protein, especially if you're going to work out. Your body and your brain need to know that you're registering food in there, that you're going to burn that, as opposed to if you don't, you're just going to burn your muscle. You need something. It doesn't have to be at 7 a.m., but try and go before 10 a.m., some protein and some sort of food. And you'll eventually be hungry. It's just like if you've done something for so long, again, it takes a minute for your metabolism to kickstart back up.
Right. Good tip too. I mean, you gave like 5 tips in that little, like you give one more, but because it is important for people to remember when you start any of these things that Lauren has shared with us today, this is not magic beans. Just like I tell all of the people who work with me with mindset, you're going to start some of these things and you're not going to focus on gratitude today. We're changing your self-talk. You're not going to focus on nutrition and protein in one day. And tomorrow say, I got this now and it's so easy and I'm looking perfect, feeling great. It's going to take a little bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's definitely a process. So
it's training, like you said earlier.
Yeah. It's like the consistency and the direction are a little bit more important than the intensity and the speed.
Great tips. I love that. Well, I ask everybody at the end of our podcast the same question. So you told us on the first one that you would love to be out on the boat fishing when you were young. So I'm going to follow up with that. Let's say you get off the boat, you had a great day with your family. What are you doing afterwards? Where are you going? And, how are you hanging out for the rest of the day?
So being from South Florida, fishing and being on the water was a huge thing. Again, think what I did with my dad. So would do that first. And then after that, honestly, we'd probably cook up the fish. I would probably be in the kitchen with my mom, helping her create a pretty good meal, just like spending time, eating a good meal, feeling good, maybe going for a walk with the fam, just spending that quality time with the people that you love and care about. It's important and it doesn't happen that often. So, I would tell my 9-year-old self or whatever, if I had that moment again, like that's 100% what I would be doing, is spending time with people I care about and eating and cooking good food.
I love it. You didn't know it back then. And even if you were thinking, what would I do in this question, it really aligns with the whole nutritional and how you get to love people. I love that answer in so many ways. Yeah. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for being here and hanging with me. And I know our listeners are going to be taking notes, stopping, rewinding, listening again, leaning in. I really appreciate you helping all of them. And I hope my listeners go and follow Lauren on Instagram. We'll drop that as well. Get to her website, get those resources, put your email in there, set up a time to talk with Lauren because you will not regret it. You have so much to give. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Love this conversation. Hope everybody found it helpful. Thank you guys for listening.
You're very welcome. All right, everyone, have an amazing rest of your week. And we can't wait to see you next time.
Thanks, Kate.
You're welcome.
Thank you for hanging out with Kate today. And whether you're going to coach, teach, cheer from the sidelines, or hitting the field yourself, remember, mindset is everything. Don't forget to follow the show for the latest episodes, as we all need a little extra motivation, humor, and sanity in our busy lives. Now, go and unleash your champion within you, one step at a time. We're always rooting for you.